If your feet feel numb, tingly, or like you're walking on cotton wool, your nervous system is trying to tell you something, and it's not something to just brush off. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Grace. For 2 years, every single morning, her feet were cold in a way that never quite warmed up, and by evening a tingling would creep up her shins. She assumed it was just part of getting older. It wasn't, not entirely. I'm Dr. Alex, and after I walked Grace through 4 simple chair exercises, she slept through the night for the first time in 2 years, and it only took about 3 weeks. Today I'm going to guide you through those same 4 moves, the ones aimed at easing tingling and helping restore feeling in numb feet after 60. Every single one is done sitting down. No floor work, no standing balance risk. You can start the first one within the next minute and stay through to the 4th because that's the one that made the real difference for Grace. Before we start, if your feet tingle, burn, or go numb at night, type feet in the comments. It tells me how many of you are quietly dealing with this, and it genuinely helps us reach more people who need it. One important note before we move a muscle. This routine is designed to gently wake up tired, age-related nerve pathways. If you live with diabetes, especially with any history of nerve complications, or you notice sudden changes in sensation, sudden weakness, or a foot that's changed color or temperature suddenly, please keep your own doctor in the loop and get any sudden changes checked properly. This routine is a support tool, not a replacement for that. What's actually happening in a numb, tingling foot? Before we get into the exercises, I want to answer the question almost everyone actually wants answered. Is this just poor circulation, or is something deeper going on? Genuinely, it's usually deeper than circulation alone. Research looking at older adults with this tingling, burning, cotton wool sensation in their feet has found something worth sitting with. In a lot of cases, the nerves involved aren't permanently destroyed. They've essentially gone quiet from a lack of the specific kind of stimulation they used to get regularly back when we walked barefoot more, on uneven ground more often. And in some research, when people perform targeted lower limb movement consistently, skin biopsies actually showed new small nerve fiber branches growing back. A quiet nerve isn't necessarily a dead one, and that's the whole premise of today's routine. We're not just chasing warmth, we're sending a direct, repeated signal that helps those pathways switch back on. Warming up before we begin, let's wake the pathways gently before the main exercises. Sit tall in your chair, both feet flat on the floor. Slowly roll each ankle 10 times in one direction, then 10 times the other way. This pushes blood down into the feet immediately. Next, gently tap both feet on the floor 20 times, alternating left and right like a soft, steady drum. That's really all it takes to tell your nervous system that something's about to change. Now we're ready for the first real exercise. Exercise 1, seated toe raise and spread. If your toes feel stiff, curled, or oddly disconnected from the rest of the foot, the nerve pathways controlling them have likely gone quiet, and this move sends a direct signal up those pathways from toes through the foot into the lower leg. If you can slip off your shoes and socks for this, do. Bare skin against the floor gives your nerves a kind of input they almost never get anymore, wrapped in cushioned soles most of the day. The floor itself becomes a form of gentle stimulation for a nervous system that's been insulated from it for years. Sit tall, both feet flat. Lift all 10 toes as high as you comfortably can and hold for 3 seconds. Feel the pull along the top of the foot. Now spread those raised toes as wide apart as you can and hold 2 more seconds. Lower slowly back down. That's 1 repetition. Aim for 12. Pay attention to which toes respond easily and which stay quiet. For most people, the little toe moves least, so give it a bit of extra attention on every spread. Grace described her feet as feeling like 2 blocks of wood every morning. By the end of her first week doing this specific move, she told me her feet felt less like wood and more like feet again. Not completely, but enough to genuinely notice. Noticing is exactly where this kind of recovery tends to begin. Quick favor before we move to the next one. If you're finding this useful, tap like on this video. Every tap genuinely helps it reach more people sitting right now with cold, tingling feet who don't know where to start. Exercise 2. Seated calf pump with a foot press. This one goes straight after cold feet specifically. If your feet stay cold, even when the rest of you feels warm, your calves have likely stopped doing their job properly. The calf muscle is actually the strongest circulation pump in the entire lower leg, and when it sits still for hours at a time, blood pools lower down, leaving the feet a bit starved of fresh, oxygen-rich blood. Nerve tissue happens to be some of the hungriest tissue in the body for oxygen, so when it's undersupplied, tingling and numbness tend to follow. Sit tall. Raise both heels as high as comfortable, rising onto the balls of your feet. At the top, press the balls of your feet firmly into the floor for 2 seconds. Feel the squeeze through the calf and the pressure spreading through the arch. Lower slowly, with full control, all the way down. That's 1 repetition. Aim for 20 at a calm, even pace, roughly 1 full raise and lower every 4 seconds. Think of it as a second heartbeat for your lower leg. Stay with me through to the 4th exercise. It's the one that made the biggest real difference for Grace. Genuinely worth waiting for. This was actually the first exercise where Grace felt something shift in real time. By around the 15th repetition, warmth had returned to her left foot. Warmth she hadn't felt in so long, she'd nearly forgotten what it was supposed to feel like. That warmth is simply fresh blood arriving in tissue that had been cold and quiet for a long time. And for anyone dealing with this kind of neuropathy, that's a genuinely hopeful sensation. One important note on pace here. It's meant to be slow and deliberate, not rushed. If you bounce through it quickly, the calf never fully squeezes, and you lose most of the benefit. Slow is what actually empties the veins and pulls fresh blood back down into the foot, so resist the urge to speed up. Exercise 3. Seated foot rolling with a towel. This one reaches a nerve pathway most foot routines miss entirely, the one running along the inner arch. The band of tissue along the bottom of the foot, the plantar fascia, is one of the more nerve-rich structures in the whole body, and years of thick-soled shoes and flat floors leave it understimulated, with those nerve endings gradually going quiet. You don't need anything special. A rolled-up hand towel works perfectly. Place it under the arch of your right foot. Roll your foot slowly forward and back, from the ball of the foot down to the heel, pressing gently down as you go. You're not stretching here, you're stimulating. Search for spots that feel tight, tender, or completely numb, and when you find a numb one, stop and hold steady pressure there for a full 10 seconds. That sustained pressure gives the nerve a kind of signal it likely hasn't received in a long while. Roll the right foot for about 60 seconds, then switch and roll the left. Here's something that tends to surprise people. This move also supports balance. The nerve endings in the arch connect through a reflex pathway running up to the spinal cord, feeding your sense of where your body is in space, what's called proprioception. Wake those endings back up, and balance generally tends to sharpen a bit, meaning a lower fall risk. All from a simple towel under the foot. When Grace first tried this, she genuinely couldn't feel the towel under her right foot at all. By her second week, she could. By the third, she could tell the difference between the ball of her foot and her heel as she rolled across it. That return of sensation wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was steady stimulation, meeting a nervous system that was still capable of responding given the chance. If your towel feels too firm or too soft, just adjust how tightly you roll it. Looser for a gentler touch, tighter for more pressure. The goal throughout is steady stimulation you can genuinely feel, never anything sharp or painful. If something feels sharp or painful rather than a firm pressure, ease off. Exercise 4. Seated shin taps and ankle circles. Now the one everyone's been waiting for, the move that made the real difference for Grace, and it ties everything else together. If your lower legs feel heavy or seem to switch off after sitting for a while, the muscle running down the front of the shin, the tibialis anterior, has likely gone a bit dormant. That muscle is what lifts the front of the foot while walking, and when it weakens, the foot can begin to drag very slightly. That tiny drag is exactly what catches a toe on a loose rug or a raised edge and turns an ordinary step into a fall. It's also supplied by a nerve that's commonly affected in neuropathy, so this exercise aims to wake it up directly. Sit tall, both feet flat, heels planted. Lift the front of both feet, toes and the balls of your feet as high as comfortable and hold for 2 seconds, feeling the muscle working along the front of the shin. Lower slowly. That's 1 shin tap. Aim for 15 repetitions. Then lift your right foot a couple of inches off the floor and draw 10 slow, wide ankle circles, 5 in each direction, as large as comfortably possible. Set it down and repeat with the left foot. You may notice a sharp tingling spreading into the foot during this one. That's often nerve tissue actually responding to the stimulation, a sign it's still there and still capable of responding, rather than something to worry about. Though, as always, if anything feels genuinely painful rather than a tingling sensation, ease off and check in with your doctor. Grace noticed this on day 3 specifically, a tingling running down the front of her right shin that felt different from her usual neuropathy sensation. Sharper, more like a current than the dull, heavy fog she'd grown used to. That shift from a heavy fog to a bright, purposeful current is often a sign the stimulation is genuinely reaching the tissue that needs it. The ankle circles at the end carry that signal from the shin through the ankle joint, linking the whole pathway of the lower leg into one continuous circuit. By the time you finish them, everything you've just woken up is, in a sense, communicating with everything else, which is exactly why this move goes last. It doesn't just strengthen one muscle, it reconnects the whole pathway. Cooling down. Let's help everything settle. Place both feet flat on the floor and press them firmly into the ground for 5 seconds, then fully relax. Gently massage the top of each foot from ankle to toes, about 10 slow strokes per foot. Finally, gently shake both feet from the ankles for 10 seconds and notice the circulation moving through tissue that felt cold and quiet when we started. The daily summary. Here's the whole routine in one place for tomorrow. The toe raise and spread to wake up the nerve pathways, the calf pump to drive warm, oxygen-rich blood back into the feet, the towel roll to stimulate the arch and support balance, and the shin taps with ankle circles to help guard against foot drop and reduce fall risk. Do all 4 daily if you can. Nerve tissue tends to respond to consistency in a way it simply doesn't respond to occasional effort. As for Grace, she now sleeps through most nights. The tingling hasn't vanished completely. Ongoing neuropathy generally needs ongoing management, not a single fix. But it's eased enough that it no longer wakes her. Her feet feel like feet again most mornings. She walks to the kitchen without needing to press her feet into the floor just to feel something under them. And she's back in the shoes she actually loves. None of that came from a pill or a procedure. It came from about 10 quiet minutes in the chair every day, repeated consistently until her nervous system remembered how to respond. Wrap up. Numb, tingling feet aren't something you simply have to accept as an inevitable part of getting older. Try these 4 exercises today and give them real consistency, not just one session, before judging whether they're helping. If this was useful, hit like so it reaches someone else quietly dealing with this. Subscribe if you haven't, and share it with someone whose feet deserve better. And one more time, since it genuinely matters, if you live with diabetes or notice any sudden change in sensation, color, or temperature in your feet, please loop your own doctor in. This routine supports the nervous system. It doesn't replace proper medical evaluation